Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. I would like to start with a few lines from a poem which will throw light on today's session. In this digital sphere, where bytes dance and screens appear, let's talk of safety, a crucial art for guarding well each digital part. As you surf the web, explore with glee. Remember caution, let it be decree. Check the links before you click. Avoid the traps that may trick. Password strong, your shield they form, protecting your world from any storm. Keep them secret, keep them sound. For safety's sake, let them be bound. Think before you share, before you post. Respect and kindness matter the most. Online, your words have mighty sway. Spread positivity each passing day. Privacy's cloak, a crucial attire. Keep personal info safe from wire. Your data is precious. Hold it tight. To keep it safe is your digital right. Trust your instincts if things feel wrong. Seek guidance, be it short or long. Your safety matters above all else in this digital realm where doubts may delve. So, dear students, in this cyberspace, embrace safety with steady grace. Navigate wisely, explore with care, for cyber safety is always there. A warm welcome to all of you to the 10th episode of the Power Hour titled Cyber Resilience, where the digital frontier meets fortified defense. I am Rashi Sethi, and I have with me Ms. Richa Shrivastava, your hosts for today evening. In today's interconnected world, the importance of cyber resilience cannot be overstated. This talk show aims to empower us with the knowledge and skills to enhance our cyber resilience, equipping us to navigate the digital landscape safely. Get ready to strengthen your defenses and emerge not just as users, but as vigilant guardians of the virtual world. Over to you, Richa ma'am.
Good evening, everyone. We are delighted to have our eminent guests of the day with us, Mr. Aftab Saloda and Ms. Irene Manning. Mr. Aftab Saloda is a highly accomplished cybersecurity professional and the business head of cybersecurity services at Silvers. With over 2 decades of in-depth experience in the field, Mr. Aftab has earned a stellar reputation for his exceptional contributions to the industry. He has successfully collaborated with both Fortune 500 companies and medium to large-sized businesses, enabling them to establish robust cyber programs and enhance their cyber resilience, thereby adding significant value to their businesses. His leadership and expertise have driven notable advancements in safeguarding client systems and data from ever-evolving threats. Mr. Aftab excels in designing and implementing comprehensive cybersecurity strategies tailored to the unique needs of businesses across industries. His expertise spans areas such as threat intelligence, risk assessment, incident response, and digital identity. His vast experience has equipped him with a deep understanding of cyber risks and the importance of building cyber resilience. He has successfully guided organizations in identifying vulnerabilities, implementing proactive measures, and mitigating potential risks. Mr. Aftab has a proven track record of effectively engaging with diverse clients. He understands the distinct cyber challenges of the industry and requirements of businesses of different scales and ensures customized solutions to address their specific cybersecurity needs. In addition to his professional accomplishments, Mr. Aftab is an avid adventurer and nature enthusiast. He has completed the challenging Everest Base Camp, showcasing his determination and ability to conquer new heights. A certified open sea scuba diver, he also explores the depths of the ocean, combining his love for adventure and marine conservation. Furthermore, Mr. Aftab actively participates in walkathons, promoting a healthy lifestyle. A very warm welcome to you, sir.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for this wonderful introduction. I really want to, I love the poem which Rashi madam did. I love to borrow that poem from a cybersecurity knowledge point of view. First of all, I really appreciate Deepfakes School taking this initiative to talk on this such an important topic. And really thank you for the respective teachers and principal ma'am for providing me an opportunity to talk to this wonderful forum. I'm super excited to share some of the interesting stories. Thank you. Looking forward.
Same here, sir. Thank you so much. Our next guest for the evening is Ms. Irene Manning. Ms. Irene Manning is currently the head of curriculum for the Digital Nagrik program at 1M1B. As the head of curriculum, she worked closely with principals and teachers to develop the CBSE skills course entitled Digital Curriculum. This curriculum covers all aspects of digital citizenship, including cyber safety, digital footprint, digital well-being, and netiquette. Prior to joining 1M1B, Ms. Irene worked at Intel Corporation for 24 years, mostly in the sales and marketing division. While based in California, she headed business operations for one of Intel's multi-billion-dollar business units, managing revenue forecasts and supply management. After shifting to Intel India, she was responsible for business unit revenue across the Asia-Pacific region, where she had the opportunity to travel to many Asian countries. Ms. Irene resides in Bangalore with her family. She's an accomplished ballet dancer and loves reading. She also likes to travel and has visited 31 countries to date. Ms. Irene is not just an expert in her field, but a passionate advocate for cybersecurity. With a wealth of experience and a commitment to sharing knowledge, she brings a unique perspective that is sure to inspire and inform us today. She's here to share her insights, strategies, and practical tips to enhance students' understanding on how to effectively navigate the digital world. We extend our warm welcome to Ms. Irene Manning.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Very, very happy to be here. I too very much enjoyed that poem at the beginning of the session. I thought that was quite clever and a wonderful way to express all the aspects of digital safety. So I look forward to the discussion with all the teachers and of course with Mr. Aftab, and let's get started.
We are truly privileged to have you, ma'am. And we are truly privileged to have such distinguished experts guide us through the crucial aspects of today's session.
Now let's start with our question answer round. My first question is for you, Irene ma'am. Are you ready? In the world of likes, shares, and followers, and unquenching thirst for popularity, students face a lot of peer pressure today, trying to be active online and showing their presence on social media. This has led to a loss of privacy and a constant urge to be in the limelight. What advice would you give to students dealing with peer pressure to comply with certain online behaviors?
Thank you for the question. Yes, I feel there is a lot of peer pressure these days, particularly for teenagers, but not exclusively for teenagers, to be online and to be sort of showing a certain lifestyle, perhaps, you know, a lot of posting of pictures of your vacations if you go to an exotic location, or posting pictures of parties or new clothing that you've bought. There's a lot of a pressure in that way. And I think students feel it acutely because at that age where they're trying to grow up and they're trying to find their footing and who they really are and who their tribe or their friends really are, there's a lot of what's called FOMO, fear of missing out. So students feel the need, oh, this person posted, oh, they were in a study group at the coffee shop. Let me also post something. Oh, did I get as many likes as that person did? So there's a lot of things going on. My feedback to students is, if there are really important things that are going on in your life, most likely the people who care about you most are the ones that want to hear about those important things. And those people are probably in a close proximity to you, be it your family, be it your friend group, right? So there's not necessarily a big need to post things online because those are the people that are with you. Those are the people that care about you. So then you have to ask yourself, what is my motivation for posting so much information online, right? Why am I constantly feeling the need to post things that are less important online? The second thing I would say is you need to think about when you're seeing other people online, you don't know what's real or whether it's they're trying to portray a certain aspect of their life. So for example, I had a friend from my school days, and I used to follow her on one of the social media platforms. And she always posted a lot of pictures of herself and her husband, and they were having fun and doing this and doing that. And then all of a sudden one day she posted that she got a divorce. And I was so surprised because I thought, wait, you're posting all these pictures of happy times and family dinners and going on vacations. And then all of a sudden she was getting divorced. So you need to keep in mind that what you see from others is a tiny fraction of their actual life. And maybe they're just trying to portray something that isn't really happening. And then the last thing I would say is please be very careful, because many schools and many employers these days are looking at people's social media profiles. When you apply for a university, when you apply for a job, the chances are relatively high that that admissions officer or that recruiting officer will look you up on social media. So you need to have the right profile. If you have lots of pictures of you going for parties, or, that's not the image that you want to portray, because that's not the kind of student that a university would want on their campus. So I think students also need to think about, what is my motivation? Am I trying to actually share information? There are reasons to post, but maybe are you oversharing? And then thirdly, what is my digital footprint going to look like to someone who I might wish to have a job from in the future, a university I might wish to attend? So those are the three things I think students should keep in mind before they start overly sharing and overly, thinking they're missing out and worrying about likes and worrying about views and things of that nature.
After hearing your valuable insights, I'm sure our students will be now very careful to handle social media, ma'am.
My question is for Mr. Aftab. Clickbaits and pop-ups have been luring people of all ages and provoking them to explore the unknown. These are the terms known to all, however understood by a few. We have come across such incidents faced by many people nowadays. Please share your insights about the motives behind it.
Well, that's a great question. And this reminds me of my favorite movie, Mr. India, of my childhood days. And I love the songs and the three characters in that movie, which is the Mr. India himself. He has a precious thing, which is his watch, and his watch makes people invisible. The second character is the Dr. Sinha, who's the well-wisher of the family. And third, Mukambo, the bad guy. And the favorite line, Mukambo Khush hua. So while this bad guy Mukembo is always looking for this illicit activities, or he's trying to snatch this watch from Mr. India to conquer the world. Now, if I put this into the context of clickbait and pops up, there are always three characters we see, and we have to look into that. That Mr. India, which we are all ourselves, because the precious thing we all have in with us is the data, which is the watch we have got, and the that watch can be used, or the data can be used by both the good guys and the bad guys. Okay. Now, when you do this clickbait and the pop-ups clicking, the good guys are really going to help you because they genuinely feel that there are certain things which you need to do. For example, if I want to plan a travel trip to Goa, it will provide me the follow-up information that these are the best place to visit and these are the good things to do it. The bad guys on the other side are really looking to do some malicious activity. And as Irene mentioned that my digital footprint onto that. So I'm just adding to another point to that it can do a profiling for myself. So basically all the footprint which I have on the internet, the bad guys can do a profiling for that. It can make a digital you of myself or digital me of myself. Okay. So when they start looking into this pop-ups and the clickbaits, the malicious intent they've got. One is that to implant something into my system, and then using that implantation, they can steal information from my system. That's number one. And number two, they can mislead me to another website where I can go ahead and share a lot of information, or I can share my financial data or my personal data, and that's where we get into the trouble. So my suggestion is that as we should take a pause when we are clicking on this because we are in the excitement. They definitely do a lot of sensationalization when they put this pop-ups and the clickbaits, and that's the time where we have to take a step back and think through that and then click on it before we go into that. And the second thing is definitely it's important to understand that what are the good one and what are the bad one, and that come with bit of experience and doing a research on it. So these are the two things I would like to conclude, that think before you click, and secondly, take a pause and ensure that you understand which is the good one and bad one for you.
Right. It is indeed an eye-opener for all of us as we all face such issues day in and day out. It can be quite a compromising experience for anyone who is not aware about such scenarios.
Moving on to my next question for Irene, ma'am. Organizations today have a huge network. They need to show their presence on social media to stay ahead of others. So dealing with cybercrime obviously becomes one of their most important agendas. Ma'am, can you share a success story where strong cybersecurity measures prevented a major threat for an organization?
So firstly, I think, so you're correct. Cybercrime is a huge issue, and it's not just presence on social media, it's presence online, right? So we're interconnected in so many ways. Large corporations are sharing data across networks to other large corporations, to the employees within their corporation, etc. So we do have to be extremely careful about cyber attacks. Now, coming to a success story, you often don't hear about success stories because I feel that if I'm successful in thwarting a cyber attack on my organization, I don't really want to go out and tell the world why the attack was not successful, because next time they'll try to come at me in a different way. Okay. We often hear about, this particular company was attacked and a lot of data was stolen, and, big name companies across the world, this is happening. And frankly, I don't think it's going to stop anytime soon. Companies are continually working on it, and they are hiring a lot of people in a role called a white hat hacker. So that's someone who hacks systems, but for good. They work for an organization. They try to find the vulnerabilities in that particular organization's online presence. And then they work with the organization to say, hey, somebody could attack you in this way. Please make sure you, change your systems, put a patch, etc. And by the way, that's can be a very lucrative and very rewarding career. So if there are any students who would be interested in something like that, you can look into that further. I would also say, particularly in India, what I see as compared to maybe what I experienced as a consumer in the United States is, I think India is quite proactive in ensuring things like two-factor authentication. Whenever you try to do an online order, or you try to pay with your Google Pay, most of the times you have to, there might be a face recognition or a thumbprint recognition and a password or an OTP. And I think the other systems, like if you do a transaction on your bank or your credit card, they'll send you a text right away. This amount was spent on your credit card. If you did not mean to spend this amount, please call the bank right away. So I feel that, a lot of those things are not there in the United States. I can't speak for other countries, but I think India is doing quite well in that space. And I think there is a real focus in this country to ensure that as much as we can, we're protecting the citizens of the country for cyber crimes. What I would say to the students is just continue to be cautious. As Aftab also said, don't click if you don't have any idea who it came from, and don't react, right? His other point was, kind of take a step back. A lot of these cyber crimes happen because they try to create this sense of urgency. Oh my gosh, your power will be cut if you don't respond straight away. Or your social media account has been hacked. Please log in and put your password here. And that's actually a phishing attempt to create a cyber crime against you. So my recommendation to students and to their parents is be cautious. Make sure that you're keeping your information private. You're downloading your apps from the App Store. You're cautious when you're out and you're using a public Wi-Fi network. All of these are times when a cybercrime or a attempt on your system could happen. Strong password, which you mentioned in your poem. So just make sure that you are aware and you are keeping yourself as safe as you possibly can. And, hopefully a cybercrime won't happen to you as an individual.
That was quite impressive, ma'am. Definitely, it's very crucial in today's digital world to have strong cybersecurity measures in place.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Aftab, sir, my question for you is, you have vast experience in cybersecurity and have handled many incidents. What are the various cyber threats which can pose a danger to one's identity? And how can we protect ourselves while working online?
Well, I'll answer the question in the ways that why the identity is so important for us. The answer is that our identity forms the core of who we are, and it also provides the place in the world. And if this identity is misused or compromised, and that's where we get stressed out into that. Now, if I put this into the digital language, what is an identity means? It means my email address, my phone number, my name itself, what I like, dislike, my hobbies, and that constitute my identity. And as I mentioned earlier, also that profiling can be done based on this, and it can create a digital me of myself, which can be used in any form and shape. Now, and as I mentioned that there is always a Mogambo who's sitting on the other side, he's trying to snatch or steal the information from us. And it's important that we create that sense of understanding how we are using this identity for ourselves itself. In the recent, if you would have heard of some of those identity which has been misused, the deepfake videos of some of the celebrities, it's an eye opener because how the technology is definitely the one of the everybody wants to adopt the new technology, but then it can also have an ill effect of it. What I really liked about those celebrities who have really taken into a very calm and composed manner to respond to that rather than react to it. So they immediately informed to the authorities to take a necessary action onto that. Secondly, they also went out and mentioned about that this is something which is not real, and they didn't felt shy about it, because it can be really taken into a position that where I can get stressed by my own identity is used in a very difficult way onto that. So it's important that again we because it's not one of us who's going. There are many people who are going through that, and if we when we come across this situation, it's important that we reach out to the people. There are cybercrime.india .gov.india. This is a website which is available, and I can share it later also. And this website really provides a lot of support to the students and in every sect of the society for that perspective. Again, I would like to say that I would not feel shy about asking this to anyone. The second important point is the digital footprint, because as we move ahead on the internet and social media, the digital footprint keep increasing. While we touch upon how we look into that, but it's important that we also don't post this real time. Like I have traveled 20 countries, and I ensure that I don't do anything real time posting on that. If I'm in a flight or if I'm traveling to airport, because what happens, it not only puts risk on me, but also put a risk on my family, because they are alone now, and somebody can use this information in a very different way for that. So just to conclude, there are three things: how we can increase or decrease our, or maintain our digital footprint. It's all up to us how we can measure that. Secondly, report and ask for help, because there's an help available. And especially, I don't feel shy if I have got something. And I, being a security professional, I also go into those situations. So I don't feel shy about asking for help. And third important thing is, again, stay calm and composed, because in these situations where you're emotionally charged, the bad guys are really looking for us to get more emotionally charged and sensationalized, and then they extract the information. So always look for that Mocambo sitting on the other side and ensure that you are subtly responding to that situation.
Right, that's quite intriguing, because as individuals, we barely pay attention to such things, which can be quite alarming for us. I'm sure students, teachers, and parents can benefit from this information a lot. Thank you so much.
Irene ma'am, my next question for you is, many youngsters have this notion that earning money is quite easy by just becoming a YouTuber, TikToker, or taking on innovative ventures like drop shipping or affiliate marketing. Can you share the real scenario with us, ma'am?
Oh boy, I actually really enjoy this question a lot, because I have teenagers, and at one point my son was also telling me that he was going to become a YouTube personality when he got older, and I said, I think you better just stick to your studies and not worry about it. But in all seriousness, so a couple of months ago, I was in an event about a month ago with an Instagram influencer. Okay. And she and I got a chance to share the stage together. And also she shared a lot of her experiences being an Instagram influencer. So a couple of things that I took away from her experience and the way she portrayed it. First of all, she had been on Instagram for about 10 years. So, and she now, I just checked her profile. She has over 200,000 followers. I'm assuming that didn't happen overnight. So it's a long journey. It's not like one day you wake up and you may get one single viral video, but that may or may not translate further, right? And that's the second thing she was talking about. I think she said last year, of the 365 days of the year, she made 320 something videos. So she was posting almost every day. And she was saying it's quite exhausting, and you have to constantly be making new videos, keeping up with trends, worrying about what's hitting, what's not hitting, how, all those kinds of things. And I think her point in talking about that was, it looks quite easy, or it looks quite fun, but actually quite a lot of work goes into making those videos. Whether it's editing, whether it's doing a take 10 times before you get your script correctly and stuff like that. And the other thing that she shared, which really, really struck me, was how much she said in the first couple of years it affected her mental health. And one of the things that she said was that people, when they see you on social media frequently, they feel as if they know you. They feel as if you're their friend, right? And they're not your friend. They don't know you. You're as I've mentioned earlier, you're showing them a small slice of your life or a message that you want to be giving, but that doesn't mean they know who you are. That doesn't mean you're their friend from 20 years ago. And because they think they're your friend, they also feel like they can criticize you. And I have seen not only this young lady, but several influencers that I follow that will post. Sometimes there's one woman that I follow, she does sort of like a shaming of the people who send her these private messages that are terrible. I mean, you know, commenting about looks, commenting about weight, commenting about, you know, why aren't you speaking up for this cause or that cause, or, you know, all these kinds of things. And so I know it looks enticing. I know it looks fun. And yes, there are people who have made it big as YouTube influencers or Instagram influencers, but you know, there are only so many Virat Kohlis in the world. So not everybody who tries to be an influencer can be an influencer, just like not everybody who tries to be a cricket player can be a cricket player. So I would say to the students, it's fun to dabble, but please stick to your studies. I think, you know, at the end of the day, that's what you know, is really important. And, you know, if you happen to make it, great. But just keep in mind that there are a lot of pitfalls and downsides that you may not see or you may not be aware of or think of to being on a public platform in that way. So that's my advice.
This was definitely an eye-opener for many of us, ma'am. As we are aware, all that glitters is not gold.
Exactly.
My question is for Aftab sir. With the emergence of digital wallets and use of UPI, we see a sharp rise in cyber frauds. There have been many series on OTT as well, which have made it evident how fearlessly these illegal activities are carried out. How can we prevent such cases through better digital awareness?
A very apt question for today's growing digital wallet into our society. So digital wallets definitely has created so much of convenience for us. And today I hardly carry any cash with me. Everything I use is digital wallet. But having said that, there are some self-discipline we need to acquire to make sure that we mitigate the risk and minimize the risk on this digital wallet. I don't feel shy to share that I also got bullied once while doing this digital wallet transaction. And it was 7, 8 years back when I was doing a transaction and I lost 3,000 rupees during this QR code scheme, which was started those time. But then being a security professional, I started investigating into it and I came across two situations. One, I was able to identify the person who was doing that and I reported back to the authorities onto that. And the second thing I realized on the platform itself is that the platform, it creates an ID without validating the person on the other side. So it created some random ID, and as soon as I posted something, it started picking up that and find out that that he started calling me that I'm a potential buyer and I want to use this. Then I realized that it takes 24 hours to validate this particular ID. And then if the ID is not valid, then the platform actually remove this ID from the system. But then within the 24 hours, they do all the things which they want to do. So essentially, again, it is important that how do we look into that? And if you see a very random ID which is created on these digital wallets, we should definitely avoid it. So the learning I would like to share is that definitely use some official or known apps where you can do a transaction, because ultimately you are going to look, you're sharing your, or you're paying for some important things, and if it's not true on the other side, we should be clearly aware of that. Secondly, a credential, passwords, your credit card information, or your personal information, it should be securely documented or put onto those websites so that it can be safe enough to do that. And again, mentioning that this platform should be secure, because if you are not aware of those platforms, please don't transact, because it's your hard-earned money or your money which your parents are giving to you. Third important thing is that secure connection, because if if you are doing this transaction into any free Wi-Fi or any unsecure environment, there's a very likelihood that somebody is trying to steal that information from you. Okay. And so essentially, it is important that how do you look into that and verify your transaction. Once you have done the transaction, check your records that is that only if you're supposed to buy a burger, then you have paid only 100 rupees, or it has taken away 200 or 300 rupees from that. And lastly, important is that sincere urge to the parents also that when you are enabling this digital wallet for the kids and the students, they also make those limitation on the transaction and also ensure that they are not sharing their credit card information or their personal information to the kids, because that makes the students and the kids more vulnerable. Because once the bad guy knows that there's a big credit card behind this transaction, he will try to go beyond that easy pick or the vulnerable transaction to do that. So these are the 5 things which I really want to say: official or known apps, secure credential, using secure connection, verify transaction records, and then the parental controls on these transactions.
That's informative. And moreover, just to add to this, even our government has shared a number for reporting any financial fraud. So the number is 1930. I'm sure it is going to be helpful for everyone and make us vigilant towards such cases.
Irene ma'am, artificial intelligence has been all the buzz lately, and most recently the concept of deepfakes. Can you give us a background on what deepfakes are, and if there are any precautions that we can take against them?
Yes, so Aftab mentioned the deepfakes earlier, and the recent incidents would have sort of elevated the awareness of deepfakes. But essentially, a deepfake is a video, or it could also be an audio, that has been digitally manipulated using AI and using machine learning. And if you don't know very much about AI, it's where a computer studies hundreds and hundreds and thousands of examples and creates its own image. Actually, if any of you have ever watched this movie called Star Wars Rogue One, there's a character in that movie who actually was deceased at the time that movie was made, and the entire movie is him, like a digital image of him. They had images of him from previous movies. And if you watch that movie in particular, you can see it looks sort of not quite right. Every time they show him, you're like, that guy looks a little strange. But as the technology keeps moving, it's going to get smoother. It's going to get better. It's going to get easier to make a deep fake, which is highly convincing. And I think that it's hard for us, and maybe Aftab can share some, background from the digital safety side that he works on, but it's hard for us as consumers to really, I think eventually it's going to be very difficult to tell just by looking. But I think a couple of things is that we've been reiterating. One is stop and think, right? If you get a call from an unknown number and it says, oh, this is your best friend, and I'm really in a jam and I can't even use my phone, and please send me 5,000 rupees. Hang up, call your friend on the number your friend has and say, hey, I just got this really weird call in your voice, right? So those are the kind of vigilance that you can be doing. And the other thing I would say is, I think because of all these recent incidents, the government is now really trying to be proactive. They're looking at the structure of the laws that are currently in place and saying, are these laws sufficient? Do we need to add laws? How can we ensure that digital platforms are policing their own platform? Are we providing ways for people to report? Are we screening the videos that are going on? And, I think there's a lot of work in this area because of all the recent activities. My plea to the children is just continue to think, just continue to be cautious. Avtab already mentioned it, but cybercrime.gov.in is a great way to report anything you see. And you can also report anonymously. So one of the problems with deepfake that he also already talked about was they can use it to embarrass you, right? You can even report anonymously if you need to or want to. So be cautious. It's an exciting technology, but it has its pitfalls. And so I think we just all need to be aware and question as much as possible.
Quite informative, ma'am. And we must all be very alert while using technology.
Aftab sir, we are quite curious to know that cybersecurity involves a plethora of risks. To name a few, there are hacking, phishing, malware, Trojans, etc. What are some of the ways to mitigate these risks, create a threat awareness, and build a robust online safety before it's too late?
Yeah, very important question. And there's a growing threat on the business, governments, and the community, and in fact, the education system, because the education system has got a lot of data onto that. So I'll put this into two perspectives. One is from a prevention point of view also, and I also want to add a bit more into the consequences of this when somebody would like to become like an hacker, and what can happen to them. So from a prevention perspective, as Irene mentioned, there are steps which our government is taking, and there are communities, there are security professionals who come and look at it. But from a home user perspective, I would definitely urge the students to use legitimate softwares, a good antivirus which can prevent you from this phishing and the ransomware and those clickbaits. The second is that, as I again mentioned, that parents also and teachers play a role into this, because these technical controls are not easy for the students or the kids to start immediately learning it. So when we provide those gadgets, there should be have the right set of security controls. The parental controls cover a large part of it, like your website has a privacy setting which can ensure that your identities are not being used and there is less of cache onto your system, so that the perpetrator is not lying on that. So that's from a prevention perspective. I also, as I mentioned, I want to touch upon the consequences. If somebody wants to say hacking is a good activity, but as Irene mentioned, white hat is something which you become like an ethical hacker. But I want to touch upon the hacking part of it, because it is an avenue which can make you quick money, but then there are serious consequences for it. So I met a hacker turned FBI advisor and now an entrepreneur in Dubai 2 weeks back, and his name is Yu Ming No. He's from Vietnam, and he was giving a very speech about how he has gone through his journey. So he started his hacking when he was 17-year-old, and he was we call like a script kiddo who enjoyed doing that, and then he started realizing there are some big bucks available through that. So he went ahead and actually uh, stolen hundreds of US citizens' data. And then FBI started getting behind him. And at the age of 23, he had earned $1 million through that stolen money, which he started the stolen data, and then he started selling this in dark web. So just to give a perspective, a dark web is something like the Mocambo's secret island where those bad guys start doing all these illicit activities. So coming back to the fact that when the FBI started getting behind him, they created a trap for him, and he was a very sharp guy. He actually made one mistake, that he put his email address into the dark web, and from there FBI started getting into his and they put a trap for 1 year. They investigated, and they then called him to US, and he was trapped and he was imprisoned for 15 years in the US jail. And then because of his good behavior, and he committed that I will support the FBI in identifying those other hackers. So his sentence was reduced to 7 years, but he actually has to go through the 7 years, which was a very difficult for somebody who's starting his career and then getting into that, and that was he paid the consequences for that. And eventually, when he came out, he continued to be supporting FBI, and now he's supporting the Vietnam government. And he was there in Dubai to ask for some funding for his new venture, which is really good to see that somebody actually has changed himself from going from that situation. But my recommendation to the student that this is a avenue which everybody gets excited about it, but it's not the way to get into that. There are ethical way to go into that, because then you can really make yourself a difference for yourself, because it's very difficult. And I see a lot of stress when people go through that, when they are into this situation. So definitely there's the good side, but the bad side is really difficult to manage when you go through that. So if the two things, like I said, prevention is important to go manage these threats, and the consequences, we should be aware of it.
So that is indeed illuminating. We all should be cautious while surfing the internet, and definitely use the ethical ways, right? Thank you so much, sir.
As we wind down, my last question for you, Irene ma'am. To empower students, you have been designing curriculum for different grades and also catering to adolescent minds, thus embarking in a digital era. What made it necessary to create a digital curriculum for students, ma'am?
So thank you for the question. Actually, this digital citizenship curriculum that we've developed is in collaboration with the CBSE and supported by Meta. And what really we started this project at the end of 2021. And the big reason was that after the pandemic and all this online schooling for such a long time, it became really apparent that the number of children online had grown substantially, right? Students who had never been online all of a sudden needed to go because their classes were online. And it wasn't just like the older kids, it was even younger kids. And, maybe they were sitting with their parent, but they were still going online. And when we first started exploring, like, what kinds of topics should we put into our curriculum and how should we frame it, the feedback from the teachers, so we had a group of teachers from across the country that helped develop this curriculum and write the lessons. Almost all of them said, we had a lot of problems when online schooling first started. Children didn't know how to behave. They would, write things in the chats that, were inappropriate. They would be, teasing one another. They would be making memes of their teachers, all kinds of, what I would say shenanigans or, incorrect behavior. And that's what really drove us to say, you learn when you first go to school, you learn how to behave in a classroom. You're told that if you want to speak, you must raise your hand. You're told when the principal ma'am walks into your room, you should stand. You're told that you wear your uniform a certain way. So like you have all of these expectations and you teach the children that, so too you should teach them how to be online. When you go into a digital classroom, should your camera be on? Should you put your name? Should you be typing things that are relevant to the class and not trying to tease the teacher or, right? So that was kind of how we started, and we expanded from there to cover many of the topics we've been speaking about tonight, like digital footprint, like cyber safety and security. We also expanded the grade levels because we originally started a relatively narrow set of grade levels, but we realized children up and down the age range needed to learn. So we're a couple of years in now with our curriculum, and we're expanding to as many schools as we can across the country. We're expanding into different languages, regional languages. And I really feel happy that schools like DPS East are taking the subject seriously and bringing these kinds of discussions to the students, because their future is all digital. The jobs that they're going to have, the life that they're going to lead is going to be a lot online. And so learning now what's safe, what's not safe, how to behave is very, very important. So.
Thank you, ma'am. Your passion to create curriculum for young learners is so apt and is indeed encouraging.
My last question is for Aftab sir. I'm sorry about this power off. Okay, great. We are back. So my last question is for you, sir, which I believe most of the students are waiting to be answered. That is, cybersecurity is one of the most upcoming career options with the rising online threats. Every organization needs an expert to ensure they are safe while accessing the internet. What are the courses and certifications one can pursue to take it up as a career option?
I love this question and very close to my heart. And I just want to start with Irene, who's really started this curriculum. And I would have loved to go back to that childhood days and love the training and education from a security perspective. But coming back to the point is that it has been a very exciting and a challenging journey for me in this profession for the last 2 decades. And I've thoroughly enjoyed for 3 reasons. One, it's challenging. Every day I need to be like on my heels to see what new coming my way. Secondly, it's an again immense learning and networking, because I need to not only learn on my own, but I need to network across the board. And then third is that I travel the world and meeting new people, because you have to have the perspective from the point of view of the people, talking to industry leaders, learning about industry. I'm actually this week I'm talking to some of the healthcare industry because the hospitals are really getting more and more threats now, and we are talking to build like healthcare specific security for them. So that's really exciting me to learn about the industry also, and then bring that perspective from a security point of view. Now, in order to go into this career, like when I started more than 2 decades back, there were no specific security curriculum. So I learned during my job. So the first important thing is that education and training is important. And now there are some really good universities who has put up the curriculum for that. And the students should definitely look for those universities which has got cybersecurity. And in fact, I'm also working with a couple of universities to build those programs also. That's number one. Number two is that develop the knack of learning new technologies and stay updated, because what happened is that if I have not updated myself in the last 6 months, I will be out of and there are new things coming every day. So to start with, there are some basic certification like Security Plus or CISSP or CISA, which will give you a wider point of view about the security, but then you have to learn on your own. You need to have a very strong attitude of learning every day onto this. Third important, as I mentioned, gaining experience, because as you interact with more and more people, learn through that journey, it will be really make your skills more sharpened and have a very important conversation with the people with whom you are talking and supporting. And last important point, the soft skills, because what happened that we interact with so many people, so many leaders, and it requires a very strong communication to articulate in terms of security, because it's very difficult when you are talking to a same security perspective to an financial industry versus talking to an education industry. So today I have to really mold my own conversation, that how can I talk to a student versus when I'm talking to the leaders who understand part of the business. So that's important, that how do you grow into that. Happy to share more about it, but I am really excited that this question has come up, and happy to help the students grow into this career.
Well, thank you, sir, for your insightful details. This can prove quite promising for our students. Now, moving ahead with our session, we have our students who are thrilled to ask a few rapid-fire questions from Aftab sir and Irene ma'am. Over to our students who will take on the session now.
Good evening, Mr. Aftab Saloda sir and Miss Irene ma'am. I am Manvik from grade 9 and I am keen on asking some questions to Irene ma'am. So ma'am, I hope that you're ready.
I'm ready.
Ready.
So ma'am, few students are unable to focus on their studies because of excessive screen time. What is your advice for them?
My advice is enlist the help of someone or something. So there are lots of apps now where you can put in your phone in focus mode, where you won't be disturbed when you're trying to study. If that still doesn't work for you, you can put your phone in another room. I often do that, especially like at dinner time. I just put my phone in another room. It can wait, right? So try to have someone help you, especially if that draw is very strong.
On behalf of all of the students, we will try to implement this in our daily life. So ma'am, my second question for you is, how is your first tries with computers?
Say it again, please.
How was your first tries with computers?
Okay, well, I have to show my age at this point, which is when I was in high school, I took a coding class in high school for basic, which is probably doesn't even exist anymore. But I started using computers more often when I was in college as for word processing, writing term papers, exam papers, and stuff like that. So, and here I am. It's been a fun, rapidly changing world.
That's nice to know, ma'am. So, ma'am, my third question for you is, you have traveled to 31 countries. Given a choice, in what country would you like to stay in?
In India? What are you talking about? I'm here in India. I'm here voluntarily because I love it here. But I do love traveling, and I've been to many, many different countries, and I feel that every country has something special to share, and that's why I like to do it. But in terms of living and staying, I like it here in India.
Yes, ma'am, that really sounds interesting. So, ma'am, what was your most memorable ballet experience?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so about 4 years ago, the studio where I take ballet here in Bangalore, we did a production of a ballet called The Sleeping Beauty. And it was the most difficult and challenging ballet that I had ever done. And I enjoyed it immensely because it was a challenge. But once you cross that challenge and you come to the other side, you realize how hard you work. It's very rewarding. So I would say that.
That's really interesting, ma'am. So, ma'am, could you share one unforgettable experience in a workshop with children?
Yes. Well, I was just at your school, DPS East, not that long ago, teaching a bunch of sixth graders about fake news, and I thoroughly enjoyed that session. We asked the children to make headlines for fake news and draw photos to go with their headline, and it was a lot of fun, a lot of creativity, and excitement in the classroom. So I really enjoyed that session quite a bit.
Thank you so much for sharing that scenario with us, ma'am. So, ma'am, my final question for you is, who was that one person in your life who changed your mindset in a good way?
Oh my goodness. Wow. Wow, that's a question. Wow. I think I had, when I first joined Intel Corporation, the woman who hired me into Intel was really quite supportive. And I was just out of school and I didn't know if I could survive in a company like Intel. I felt very intimidated because there were so many engineers there and I was not an engineer. And she really helped nurture me and mentor me and make me realize that I had a place in that company. So I would have to say that experience changed my life pretty significantly.
Yes, ma'am. I'm sure everyone would like to have a great mentor like that on the path to success. Now, I would like to pass this on to my co-host, Dia.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Dia Pradeep of grade 9, and I would be asking the rapid fire questions to Aftab sir. So, sir, are you ready?
I'm super excited.
My first question for you is, how can students identify a website or an app as a friend or a foe?
Yeah, especially when we buy a new phone, we definitely do our own research to understand whether it's good or bad. So it's important that when we go into any app, we should do small research, what are the people talking about it. There are simple things also, like if you are going to a new website, and how to identify a legitimate website is check on the spelling. Like if the spellings are subtly misspelled, it's a malicious website. Like if you are logging into ICICI, it can be ICECI, and if a small subtle change from I to E, you may get distracted. So that small thing we can do. And lastly, the sensationalization of the information, because there are big sales, 70% off, massive price discount, and these really things can allure to that. So look out for that to identify whether it's legitimate or not.
In today's world, there are a lot of dangers and risks of blindly trusting websites. So these steps that you have mentioned will definitely help us to feel safe while using technology. My next question for you is, Can you share a key mantra that we all can follow to use internet safely?
Starting with like strong credentials, your strong passwords, use your updated software onto that, because then it can make sure that you have the right level of patches updated onto it. Again, as I mentioned, think before you click and go into any of the systems and software to look into that. Very important, we talked about is that use a very secure connection. If you in your house also make sure that you have the right set of passwords and you're not using the default Airtel password to connect to our house on that. And monitor what you are doing, or monitor your accounts and ask for help. As I mentioned earlier, that there is a lot of help available. Please ask for help to make sure that you are secure.
Yes, sir, that is very knowledgeable. Moving on, what are you most grateful for in your life?
Sorry, can you come again the question?
What are you most grateful for in your life?
Important about the family, because that really keeps me charged doing some of the exciting work. And then I also spend some time with me after looking into that, because if I'm really charged, I really feel that I can be supporting my family and the work I do.
That is truly enlightening for us. Sir, can you share your most cherished childhood memory?
My childhood memory, that's a question now, I have to think through that. The childhood memory when I started looking into some of the adventures thing, and which I actually carried later on into my journey. So I was very fascinated about some of the adventure stuff, and during the childhood I started creating that thoughts about it, and that really makes me to now pick up the scuba diving and the climbing the Mount Everest base camp.
That was great to hear. Sir, did you fall prey to any cyber threat situations?
Yes, I do. As I mentioned earlier, also I did got caught when I was doing some transaction. But then, being a security professional, it really helped me to kind of look through that. What are the experience I have gone through it, and it really helps me to see that how can I eliminate some of the risk from that and learn from that, so that I don't do the same mistake again. So that's something which I definitely keep bringing my security experience together.
That was quite interesting, I must say. My last question for you is, from scaling the heights of the Mount Everest to diving to the depths of the ocean, what excites you to take up such adventurous activities?
Like as I mentioned, I'm always so excited about the nature. When I did the track to the base camp, it's so beautiful to see the serene nature and be with the nature all the time. And while I doing the same thing when I do a scuba diving, so enjoying that marine life. The important thing which I have learned is that if you don't risk, you risk more. And doing these activities, I really started doing more calculated risk, and I have now started embracing the risk to harness my skill and then go on to these events.
I think that we all have an activity that we enjoy doing, and your story throws more light on how one can manage to have a good balance between work life and personal life. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Well, after this exciting round, I'm sure our guests of the day have enjoyed today's session as much as we have. It was an enlightening session for all of us, where we understood the various facets of cybersecurity. Time is a constraint. However, we would like this session to continue some other time. On behalf of the organizing committee, Delhi Public School, Bangalore East, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to Mr. Aftab Saloda, Head of Cybersecurity at Silvers, and Ms. Irene Manning, Head of Curriculum for the Digital Nagrik Program at 1M 1B, for presenting the talk show on cyber resilience. Your passion and enthusiasm added a vibrant and captivating dimension to the event, making it a resounding success. I would like to express my sincere appreciation to our management, our principal, Dr. Banala Carvalho, our vice principal, Ms. Preeti Suta, for providing a platform where our students can benefit and thus cater to their digital intellect. Lastly, I thank Ms. Sonali Roy, Head of English Department, and Ms. Yoni Dixit, Teacher of English Department, for constant enthusiasm and guidance, and Ms. Vikranti Ashitkar, Head of Computer Department, Ms. Pallavi Srivastav, and Ms. Sitali Nima, Teachers of Computer Department, for technical support. The talk show on cyber resilience would not have been possible without your collective enthusiasm and involvement. We hope this event has provided a platform to create awareness and build a sturdy online resilience amongst our viewers. Well, thank you and have a happy weekend.